أهنئ إخواني وأخواتي المؤمنين والمؤمنات بذكرى ولادة الإمام المجتبى عليه أفضل صلوات المصلين. اليوم بصلاة الجمعة نبهت إلى 3 نقاط. النقطة الأولى أن الإمام الحسن كما ورد ذلك بحديث عن الإمام الباقر عليه السلام قال: ما أنجزه الإمام الحسن خير مما طلعت عليه الشمس لهذه الأمة، ويعتبر أعظم إنجاز للأئمة عليهم السلام بعد الإمام أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام. الشيء الثاني أن الإمام الحسن يعتبر الفاتح الأكبر لعلوم أهل البيت على أهل الشام، بعدما أغلق أهل الشام عقولهم نواديهم على علوم أهل البيت، وخاصة معارف وعلوم أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام. الشيء الثالث الذي أنجزه الإمام الحسن أيضاً عليه السلام أكمل مشروع إحياء سنة رسول الله التي أميتت بعد وفاته ولمدة 25 سنة. فالإمام الحسن أكمل مشروع، لأن المشروع بدأه أمير المؤمنين في سنة 27 هجرية. بدأ الإمام أمير المؤمنين بإعادة سنة رسول الله إلى الواجهة إلى الأمة. كما تعلمون ما كانت سنة رسول الله، تعلمون أي سنة كانت بعد رسول الله؟ سنة الشيخين. مشروع إعادة سنة رسول الله إلى الوجود إلى الظهور بعد رسول الله بدأها أمير المؤمنين، لكن ال4 سنين ما كانت، فأكمل هذا المشروع هو الإمام الحسن المجتبى. الشيء الثالث أيضاً قد أشرت له بعدة محاضرات على أن الإمام الحسن يعتبر أيضاً أب للأئمة عليهم السلام. الأئمة المعصومين صحيح هم من الحسين من الأب، لكن من جهة الأم هم أيضاً أبناء الإمام الحسن المجتبى عليه السلام، باعتبار أن إحنا نقول على أن الحسن والحسين ولدي رسول الله لأن أمهم فاطمة بنت محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أيضاً بنفس السياق على أن الأئمة المعصومين ابتداءً من الباقر هم أولاد علي السجاد وفاطمة بنت الحسن صديقة بني الحسن، فيكون الإمام الحسن أيضاً أباً للأئمة وليس فقط الحسين من جهة الأم. نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يجعلنا مع الحسن المجتبى في الدنيا والآخرة، والحمد لله رب العالمين، وصل يا رب على محمد وآله الطاهرين.
Ahsantum Shaykhna al-Aziz. We pray inshallah he arrives to his next destination, inshallah, as he serves another community for the second half of the holy month of Ramadan. Inshallah, he arrives safely and serves them as he has for us tonight. Alhamdulillah, we have started on a great note. And we have a great program in store, inshallah, for you all. For the youngsters, we're going to have our Mawlid, and then we're going to have the Majina, inshallah, where everyone's going to have a chance at candy. If any of your children do not have a bag, we do have some bags by donation. So anything you're able to donate, we do have bags for the kids that do not have bags for the candy. The parents are able to, inshallah, get the bags at the back, and inshallah, they will be able to collect a lot of candy tonight. Is everyone ready for candy tonight? If you are ready to have candy tonight, I want to hear a salawat. But this salawat has to show me how much you want the candy. Okay? So if you want candy, I want a loud salawat. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أحسنتم. I can't hear you. 5? Do you have the Kahoot? Yeah? Okay, as we await, inshallah, our guest speaker, inshallah, I want to ask a couple questions to the youth. We're going to do an activity and have the youngsters answer some questions so we know that you know who we're celebrating tonight. Okay? Who would like to participate in this activity? So I'm going to call up on 3 boys and 3 girls, and we're going to ask some questions. I'm going to ask from 3 different age groups, okay? So from the youngest age group, you, okay? تعال. Hassan Jum'ah, تفضل. And from the older age group, yeah. Okay, from the sisters. Hello. Okay, they're all sitting very peacefully. I'll choose you. Yalla, you as well. Both of you. Yalla, تفضلوا. Okay, so we have. You can come as well. Okay, so we have 4 contestants on each side, or no, 3? I'll add a 4th. Aliya, are you ready? We're gonna do a competition. Okay, we're gonna start with you, Habibi. What's your name? What is your name?
Hamoudi.
Hamoudi? Okay, Hamoudi. How are you feeling today?
15.
How are you feeling? How are you?
15.
Are you excited for the candy tonight?
Yeah.
How excited on a scale of 1 to a million?
Yeah. What?
Okay, Hamoudi, I want you, first of all, where's your dad? Do you know where your dad is? Right over there. Okay, Baba's gonna give you a gift if you get this answer right, okay? What kind of gift would you like from Baba?
Pipe. A gun.
A what?
A toy gun.
A toy gun. A water gun, maybe. A water gun sounds like a good idea, maybe. Okay, Hamoudi, you're gonna get a gift from your dad if you get this answer right, okay? Whose birthday are we celebrating today? Don't tell him. Don't tell him.
My dad.
He says my dad. No, which Imam? So maybe it's your dad's birthday. Is it your birthday or no? No? Which Imam? We're celebrating a Imam today. Which Imam are we celebrating? Do you know his name?
Mama.
Imam Hassan, say.
Mama Jen.
Imam Hassan, صلي على محمد وآل محمد. أحسنت. Yalla, you're gonna get a gift from your dad, okay? Yalla, you can go get off the stage, just be careful. Okay. Youngest? But we're gonna start with you because you're the closest, okay? Salaam alaikum, what is your name?
Rahaf.
Rahaf? Okay. I want you to tell us, how are you feeling for this Mawlid? What is on the top of your mind today?
Excited.
You're excited? What are you most excited for?
I don't know.
Is there something specific?
No.
Are you excited for the candy more, for the clapping? For the candy?
Yes.
Okay, so she's excited for the candy. Where's your dad? Do you see him? He's not here, Mom? Okay. What kind of prize would you like from your mom today?
A new abaya.
A new abaya. That's a nice prize. Is that a good? Okay. So Rahaf will win a new abaya, inshallah. The next Mawlid, you're going to come wearing it, okay? Inshallah. What number Imam is Imam Al-Hassan?
The second Imam.
أحسنتي. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Okay, you can go, inshallah. You're going to get a abaya from your mom as a gift for attending this Mawlid. Salaam alaikum, my brother.
Hassan.
Louder.
What?
Salaam alaikum. What's the response?
Wa alaikum assalam.
What is your name?
Hassan Jum'ah.
Hassan Jum'ah. You've been on the stage before, haven't you? Okay. Hassan Jum'ah, should I ask you a hard question or an easy question?
Easy.
Easy? Well, your name is Hassan. So you should know a lot about this Imam. I don't know how hard of a question I should ask you. Okay, how about I ask you this? You know a story, because I know you know the story. You told me it one day. There's a story about Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. Can you tell us the story very quickly? A story about Imam Hassan and Hussein, and they see a man in a washroom doing wudu. What happens? Yalla for a prize.
Hassan, on Sunday school you told us. No, you didn't. You want me to say it for you?
Yalla.
The man was doing the wudu wrong, and Hassan and Hussein they helped him.
They taught him how to do it properly?
Yes.
Ahsant. What prize do you want from your dad for that?
PS5.
ضرب بالعالي حجي. PS5 بعد you have to deal with your dad. But because he got the story correct, Imam Al-Hassan Hussein saw a man doing wudu incorrectly. So instead of telling the man that he's doing it incorrectly, they showed him. And they did it the right way, and the man understood how to do wudu the proper way. Ahsant. Hassan Jum'ah, now you can go and talk to your dad about the new PS5. Salaam alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
What is your name?
Aliya.
Aliya Samak, right? Okay, Aliya. Do you want, where your dad's not here today? Your mom's in the crowd? What kind of prize are you looking for from your mom today? Anything you can think about.
A desk.
A desk? Okay, a desk. I don't know where your mom is, but I think she's willing to do that for you. She gave you the thumbs up. Is a hard question okay? Okay. I'll ask maybe a harder question. If you don't know, I'll give you an easier one, okay? Where is Imam Al-Hassan buried? Which city?
I know.
You don't know? Someone just told me.
Medina.
Medina. Ahsanti. In Jannatul Baqi', Imam Al-Hassan is buried, and inshallah, you are one of the visitors, and inshallah, everyone here is one of the visitors. Inshallah, let's give her a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Salaam alaikum, habibi.
Ali. Wa alaikum assalam.
What is your name?
Ali.
Ali. Okay, quick fire question. There's a title of Imam Al-Hassan. There's many titles. I just need you to give me one. I said one of them, I said two of them already today. Imam Hassan and you have to say the rest. There's
Askari?
Imam Hassan al-Askari, no, that's another Imam. But a title, a kunya of Imam Al-Hassan.
Shaba?
Say it again.
Imam Hassan al-Mushtaba.
Ahsant. It doesn't seem like you got any help. Is your dad in the crowd or just mom? Your dad? What do you want from him today for this celebrating this Mawlid?
A meta quest.
A meta quest. Wow, the requests are getting very, very high end. I don't know if your dad will give you that, but you deserve it for coming to the Mawlid Imam Al-Hassan. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salaam alaikum, sister.
Wa-alaikum salam.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, so you two are my students. So that means you must be able to handle a very hard question. We can do one question because the Sayyid is here, so we're going to do one question. But before that, just a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. A tough question is good? Okay. I think we might skip your question and do it later, okay? Let's see. Okay, Imam Al-Hassan was at many wars, but he had a son who was at a very important war, the most important battle that we know in our faith. What is the name of the son of Imam Al-Hassan that I am speaking about? We remember him on the 8th night of Muharram in the Iraqi culture.
Qasim.
Qasim ibn al-Hassan, yes, that is correct. And you're going to have to deal with your parents for the prizes, okay? Allah. She says she has everything she needs. Let's recite aloud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ahsantum. Ahsantum. Thank you to all our youth. And I know the energy is high, and the energy has to remain high. I might ask a couple of questions about the lecture. So the Sayyid is going to have a lecture, inshallah. And I want you all to focus on this lecture, because I might ask you some questions that have to do with the lecture of the Sayyid. So if you are paying attention, you are going to, inshallah, get some very good prizes tonight. Inshallah, we're going to jump into the main event of tonight. We are deeply pleasured and honored to be joined by Samahat al-Sayyid Mahdi al-Modaresi. He has joined us before as a guest, but the first time as a speaker. And inshallah, we are very excited to have him for the next 10 nights. It is our honor. This is your home, Sayyidna, and we are so glad to have you. And we are so excited to, inshallah, go on a spiritual journey together over the next 10 nights of the holy month of Ramadan. So inshallah, without further ado, we're going to welcome Samahat al-Sayyid. But before that, for all my youth especially, if you're sitting on a chair, I want you to get off a chair. And if you're in the back, I want you to come into this area in front of the Sayyid, inshallah, to show him that you are ready to interact. For the sisters to come as forward as possible. Rahimallah man dhakara al-qa'ima min ali Muhammad. As forward as possible.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين وحبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين الغرر الميامين سيما بقية الله في الأراضين وحجته على الخلائق أجمعين سيدنا وإمام زماننا وصاحب نعمتنا وولي أمرنا مهدي هذه الأمة وطاووس أهل الجنة الحجة ابن الحسن العسكري فداه أرواح العالمين. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Felicitations and congratulations on the blessed birth of Imam Al-Hassan Al-Mushtaba Al-Zaki Al-Taqi, the grandson of the Holy Messenger of Allah, the embodiment of virtue, the epitome of goodness, whose birth made Ramadan Kareem. People greet each other in the holy month of Ramadan by saying Ramadan Kareem. Perhaps it is because the Kareem of the family of the Holy Messenger of God was born in the middle of this month. Brothers and sisters, talking about Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam, and I ask and urge especially my respected sisters to keep the calm as we are about to knock on the door of one of the greatest creations of Allah. So great, in fact, that He is His vicegerent and representative. Speaking about Imam Al-Hassan is a topic that, just like his father, just like his mother, just like his grandfather and his younger brother, confuses the speaker to an extent that you are left dumbfounded, speechless. Where do you begin? What do you cover? What exactly do you talk about? Which of his virtues do you focus on? He's an ocean, a tumultuous ocean of virtue. Someone whose example is so desperately needed in this day and age. And so, I'd like to ask a question, but not before you recite aloud salawat in his honor and keep the calm and quiet, insha'Allah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajal faraj. Now, if after the salawat there are still people left speaking, I think we can call it a night. People have had their iftar. They feel satisfied and just want to go home and watch some TV. And I think we're more than happy to do that. But if you want to hear about Imam Al-Hassan and answer a critical question that is relevant to ourselves, then let's try and focus. The question is this. Listen very carefully to me. Muslims knew who Imam Al-Hassan was. I often say that if you want to get to know Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Al-Hassan, Imam Al-Hussein, you really don't need to go and search through Shia sources. One book, I'll give you one title. فضائل الصحابة لأحمد ibn Hanbal is a book authored by one of the leaders of the four primary Sunni sects or schools. It's called, what is it again? Fadailul Sahaba. This book is written and authored by a Sunni jurist, not a Shia scholar, not a marja. And it was authored over 1,000 years ago. if you just read through that, because the title of the book suggests that it's about the virtues of the companions of the Holy Prophet, right? However, he dedicates 100 pages to Amirul Mu'mineen. 100 pages of his book. Other companions might get a paragraph, maybe half a page. If they're lucky, 2 pages. Amirul Mu'mineen gets 100. Forget history. Forget Badr. Forget Uhud. Forget Khaybar. Forget Ahzab. Forget all of those moments in history in which the grandeur, the bravery, the devotion, the dedication, the sacrifice of Ali ibn Abi Talib shone for everyone. Forget all those. Read through the traditions of Rasulullah about Amir al-Mu'mineen in the Sunni book, and you will recognize without a speck of doubt that the only person capable of and qualified to be the successor of Rasulullah was none other than Ali. That's all you need. Read about the virtues of Imam Al-Hassan in that book, and it tells you all you need to know. So Imam Al-Hassan was widely recognized. Ask any Sunni and they'll tell you, Imam Al-Hassan, who doesn't know Imam Al-Hassan? You know, in Egypt they have a saying. If they see someone who's oppressed, do you know what they say about him? They say, مظلوم كمظلومية الحسن والحسين. They know that Imam Al-Hassan was oppressed. But my question is this: if Imam Al-Hassan was so widely recognized, if everybody knew him to be not just the Prophet's grandson, but the prince of the youth of paradise, for crying out loud, what else did the Prophet have to say about Imam Al-Hassan to demonstrate his greatness to everyone? That those in paradise have a leader. They have someone they look up to. They have someone they all admire. The dwellers in paradise. In other words, the believers, those who are virtuous and good. They look up to someone in paradise, and that person is none other than Imam Al-Hassan. Everybody knew this. Everybody knew that Imam Al-Hassan was Kareem. By the way, let me tell you something. You know the title Kareem that we attribute to Imam Al-Hassan? That's not found in any of our literature. None of our ahadith, none of the ziyarat, none of the quotations attributed to Rasulullah or the other Imams refer to Imam Al-Hassan as Kareem. So why is he known as Kareem? Not because this was prescribed. Not because it was a name granted to him by Rasulullah, but because his generosity was so widespread. It was so well known. It was so highly recognized that everybody just called him Kareem, because his generosity reached everyone. Friend as well as foe, ally as well as enemy, to the extent that Marwan ibn al-Hakam, and for those of you who don't know who Marwan was and what Marwan's role was in the death of Amir al-Mu'mineen, as well as the amount of hurt that he caused to Imam Al-Hassan, you will then recognize what this statement meant. When Marwan spoke about Imam Al-Hassan, as much as he was a sworn enemy, he would say, إِنَّهُ أَسْخَى الْعَرَبِ, the most generous of the Arabs. And Arabs are known for what? They're known for generosity. They're known for their hospitality. Am I right? And so when Marwan, his enemy, says that, you know, in all of the Arab world, there's nobody that is more generous than Imam Al-Hassan, it tells you that this title was derived from the tradition and practice of Imam Al-Hassan. It was a well-known fact. You know how when people say Canadians are polite, it's because there have been enough incidents where Canadians, especially compared to their southern neighbors, are seen to be polite. Imam Al-Hassan was seen as being generous because people saw that generosity time and time and time again. So people recognized his generosity. Let me give you a couple of examples before I get to my critical question. Imam Al-Hassan was so generous that a man once came to him. Listen to this. Just try and visualize. He came to the Imam. He said to him, Ya Aba Muhammad, Inni qad ji'tuka li ashku. I have come to complain to you about this enemy who oppresses me. He hurts me. He causes me hardship. He leaves me and my family in pain and misery. فَأَسْأَلُكَ بِحَقِّ جَدِّكَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. I ask you in honor of your grandfather and in honor of your father and your mother that you help me against this enemy of mine. فَاسْتَوَى الْحَسَنُ جَالِسًا. Imam al-Hassan was seated in a relaxed way. Suddenly, he sat upright as if he was ready to do whatever this man was asking. The Imam said to him, who is this enemy? Name him for me. He said, إِنَّهُ الْفَقْرِ. It is poverty. Ya Aba Muhammad, I'm poor. So the Imam looked at his servant. He said, how much money do we have in the coffers? Who does that? If you have money in your pocket, you have some change, and you see someone asking you, even if they ask you in this nice way, you take out whatever's in your pocket. Maybe if it's too much, you take out a few notes of paper, and then you give it to them, right? You're careful how much you give. You don't want to give too much. Imam Al-Hassan said to his servant, how much do we have in the safe, in the coffers? Before the man answered, the servant, the Imam said, bring me everything you have. So he went and he came back with a few thousand gold and silver coins. He gave it to the Imam. The Imam took the money. He smiled in such a manner. Listen carefully to this. Parenthetically, I'll mention this. When you, let's say for example, you come to me and you ask me for a favor. The way it works is no matter how nice and cordial I am, you'll still feel a little embarrassed, right? Because you've had to ask. And I'm now giving you whatever you asked for. I'm doing you a favor. Imam Al-Hassan used to smile in such a gentle manner in the face of people who have asked him that he would give the impression that he was the one who got a favor from the individual asking him. He was so delighted that it wouldn't make the person uncomfortable in the slightest way. The Imam gave him all the money he had, a few thousand gold and silver coins. Then the Imam said to him, you know the names that you just mentioned. سألتني بحق جدي وأبي وأمي. You know how you just swore in the name of those dearest to me that I should help you overcome your enemy? He said, yes. He said, I ask you in the same names that whenever this enemy comes to hurt you again, you come back to me. Again, I ask, who does that? Who gives money to the poor and say, look, next time when you need money, come back to me. Don't go anywhere else. It's always the opposite. Sometimes people give charity and they're like, look, I've got, what do they call it? Charity fatigue nowadays. Too many fundraisers. Don't come to me again. Imam Al-Hassan did the opposite. I ask you in the name of my father, my grandfather, my mother, that you come back to me whenever this enemy comes back to hurt you. This was the generosity of Imam Al-Hassan. This is a family, brothers and sisters, the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, that didn't know how to say no. ما قال لا قط إلا في تشهده لولا التشهد كانت لاؤه نعم. They couldn't say no to anyone. You go to them and you ask them, and they were always more than happy to help. You didn't even have to ask them. Allahu Akbar. You might have heard the story. Imam Al-Hassan was going through the farmland around Medina when he came across this slave, and the slave was feeding a dog. So the Imam hid behind a tree. There's another story that's like a variant of this. It's slightly different, attributed to Imam Al-Hussein, but that's a different story. So the Imam noticed that this slave was feeding the dog. The way he was feeding him was interesting. He was taking one bite out of a loaf of bread and then giving another bite to the dog. One bite for him, one bite for the dog. So the Imam observed him for a while, then he walked up to him. He said to him, "Why were you doing that?" He's trying to gauge this person's personality. He's trying to find out what his motivations are. And that's what the Ahlul Bayt do, brothers and sisters. Listen to this. The Ahlul Bayt often test you slightly, just putting you in a position where you have the chance to show whether or not there is any substance that's worth saving. There's anything in me that's worth buying, right? Imam Al-Hussein sends after his companions, for instance, and he wants to know whether they're receptive or not. In the case of some people, Imam Al-Hussein would go up to them personally and they would reject him. In the case of Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, Imam Al-Hussein didn't go personally, he sent someone else, he sent a message. And so when Zuhair ibn al-Qayn was eating, you've all heard the story, he was eating with his wife when the messenger of Imam Al-Hussein came saying that the Imam is asking for you. So he just continued to eat. His wife was the one who told him, "How dare you sit here and eat while the son of the daughter of God's messenger is asking for you?" So he dropped the food, he went to Imam Al-Hussein. A few moments later he came back and he said to his wife, "You are divorced. Don't stay here. I don't want you to become a widow. You're now divorced. Take everything I have, whatever money, assets, go and join your family." She said, "What happened to you?" He said, "I can't talk about it. Imam Al-Hussein is asking for my help. I'm offering it." So the wife said, "You want to offer your help to Imam Al-Hussein while I abandon the women of Imam Al-Hussein? By God, I shan't leave you. And I will go through whatever the women of Imam Al-Hussein go through." By answering the call of Imam Al-Hussein, the Imam identifies the substance that's worth saving in Zuhair. Right? Al-Hurr is another example. I don't want to get into these different examples, but you get the point. Al-Hurr demonstrated the value that he had with him when he did not reciprocate the insult. When Imam Al-Hussein prayed and said, "Thakalatka ummuk, may your mother grieve over you," he was about to respond and he was about to say the same thing when he said, "Your mother is Fatima. How could I say the same thing about you?" And Imam Al-Hussein recognized that this person has some substance. There's some good deep down in this person's soul that's worth saving. And so he certainly saves him on the day of Ashura. With this slave, the Imam asked him, Imam Al-Hassan, he said to him, "Why were you feeding the dog the same thing, the same food that you were eating?" He said, "Ya ibn Rasulullah, because this is the dog that has a soul. And the dog was looking at me, staring at me while I was eating. And so I didn't feel like I could eat while the dog was still hungry. So I decided to give him half of my portion." The Imam said, "Stay right here." He said, "Who's your master?" He mentioned the master's name. The Imam went for a few moments, came back, and he said to him, "I have just purchased you from your master. You are now a free man. And I've also bought this farm from your master. The farm is also yours to keep." This was the generosity of Imam Al-Hassan. You think people didn't recognize that? They didn't see it? You think people didn't recognize the bravery of Imam Al-Hassan, which was demonstrated in the most spectacular fashion during the Battle of Jamal, the Battle of Siffin, the Battle of Nahrawan? It was Imam Al-Hassan. The entire battle revolved around him. He was the undisputed hero. Yes, you had Malik al-Ashtar as the commander of the army, but that's only because the companions of Imam al-Hussein wouldn't let the family of Imam al-Hussein fight before they did. It was Malik al-Ashtar and his like that would refuse to let any member of the family of Amir al-Mu'mineen put themselves in harm's way, in danger. But when Imam al-Hassan entered the battlefield, it was all over for the rider of the camel, as well as any party that confronted Amir al-Mu'mineen. Imam Al-Hassan was a young child. He would approach the first Khalifa and tell him, Inzil an mimbari abi, wajlis ala mimbari abik. This is my father's pulpit. Go and sit on your father's pulpit. This is ours. This is Imam Al-Hassan. So everyone recognized the Imam's bravery, the Imam's generosity, the Imam's devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His acts of worship were exemplary. The Imams of the Ahlul Bayt, not me, not a scholar, not a marja', not Shaykh al-Mufid, not Tusi. The Imams have stated, كان الحسن أعبد الناس وأزهدهم. When it came to acts of worship, no one superseded Imam Al-Hassan. كان يبكي whenever he heard the name of Akhirah, كان يبكي. Whenever he remembered the grave, he would cry. Whenever he remembered reckoning on the day of judgment, the Imam would cry. Whenever he remembered standing before Allah to be held to account for his actions, the Imam would cry. His prayers in the middle of the night. Again, just like his father, Imam Al-Hassan would somehow embody all of these contradictory characteristics. So merciful towards those who are weak, those who are feeble, those who are meek, those who are poor, and yet so brave in the face of the oppressors. This was Imam Al-Hassan, and everyone recognized it. Imam Al-Hassan's forbearance, again, you've heard this a billion times. It's still worth mentioning, but I don't want to get into the details. A man from Sham, having been brainwashed by the massive, notorious media machine of Muawiyah. Inshallah, over the next coming nights, we'll be dedicating a good 1 or 2 nights to Muawiyah. This person deserves his share, inshallah. But a person who's been brainwashed by Muawiyah comes from Sham, and he approaches Imam Al-Hassan and he says to him, you know, I came all the way from Sham to Medina. What is it, about 2,000 miles or so? He said, I've traveled and I've trekked this entire way so that I would curse you, your father, your mother, and your brother. How does Imam Al-Hassan respond to a man like that? The Imam says to him, لَعَلَّكَ شَبَّهْتَ. Maybe you have the wrong person. Do you even know who I am? He said, yeah, I know who you are. You are Al-Hassan ibn Ali. He said, no, you've got the wrong person. You look like you're from out of town. The man said, yes, I told you I came from Sham. The Imam said, in that case, you're my guest tonight. You're going nowhere. You're coming to my house. Then the Imam grabbed his hand. As soon as he felt the warmth in the Imam's hand, subhanallah, the hadith says, An-nas abid al-ihsan. People are slaves to whoever treats them with kindness. This is a universal rule. You treat anyone with kindness, except the worst of the worst. Otherwise, 99% of the people are exactly like that. Treat them with kindness, treat them with goodness, and people will fall head over heels in love with you and your ideals and your morals. So the Imam told him, you're coming to my house. By the way, nobody leaves my house without a fresh new set of clothes. By the way, I have excellent food prepared for you, and you're staying with me for no less than 3 days and nights. So the man, after 3 days, he walked out of Medina, but by this time he was crying. He looked at the Imam. He said to him, when I came to Medina, I hated no one more than you and your family, and now as I leave, I love no one more than I love you and your family. Everybody knew this. Here's my question. Why did people then abandon Imam Al-Hassan? If these are his virtues, if these are his moral characteristics, why would the Imam be abandoned the way he was? I'll give you one example of the abandonment and desertion that Imam Al-Hassan faced. His own cousin, a man by the name of Ubaidullah ibn Abbas ibn Abd al-Muttalib, a Hashimi, a Sayyid, a first cousin to Amir al-Mu'mineen and to Imam al-Hassan. This person was the most qualified individual to be appointed as the commander of one of the legions of Imam al-Hassan. The reason he was the most qualified is that, number one, he had a religious inclination towards fighting Muawiyah. He was religiously committed to eradicating this filth known as Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. And that's a very big motivation when you are religiously motivated. Number two, he had a familial motivation in that he was the cousin of Imam al-Hassan. Imam al-Hassan is the Khalifa. Surely if you're going to pick a side, whose side are you going to pick? That of Imam al-Hassan. Number three, and perhaps most astonishingly, Ubaydullah ibn al-Abbas had two young boys that Muawiyah slaughtered while they were in their mother's lap. These two young boys, Muawiyah sent a man by the name of Busr ibn Artat to Yemen because Ubaydullah ibn al-Abbas had sent his wife and his children to Yemen to seek refuge. So Muawiyah sent an assassination group led by Busr ibn Artat, and they slaughtered these two young boys in their mother's own lap. So the third motivation that Ubaydullah ibn al-Abbas had to fight Muawiyah was what? Revenge. You've killed my two boys. So who would be the most qualified to be appointed as the head of this legion? It would have to be, the natural choice is Ubaydullah ibn al-Abbas. And yet, Muawiyah managed to buy him out with 100,000 silver coins. He literally told him that if you join my side, I'll give you 100,000 coins. And this man, despite being a Hashimi, but despite being one of the followers, he was with Amir al-Mu'mineen in his battles. Jamal, Saffin, Nahrawan. He was the Imam's cousin. Despite having the religious motivation, the tribal motivation, as well as the motivation of revenge against Muawiyah, he was bought out with some cash. It turns out you can buy anyone with enough money. It's the one weakness. SubhanAllah, we have a hadith that says that when money was first minted, in other words, it was a barter system before, right? You'd give like a kilo of wheat, you'd get a kilo of barley, for instance. Then it became gold and silver. The hadith says that when gold and silver were first minted as currency, Shaitan took them and placed them over his eyes and his head. And he said, thank you. I now have the most powerful means of stealing people's souls and values and everything that they have. People are going to do whatever it takes to have more of this. You can buy anyone. It's just a matter of what their price is. Unless your values are so firm that no amount of shiny silver and gold can sway you. Unless you are like the companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein, and inshallah soon the 12th Imam, may Allah hasten his reappearance, who are driven by none other than devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in which case money has no impact, it has no value on you. Moving on, my question is this: why did people abandon Imam al-Hassan the way he was abandoned? By the way, when Ubaydullah ibn al-Abbas left Imam al-Hassan and switched sides to Muawiyah's camp, he took along with him 12,000 of the best fighters and warriors of Imam al-Hassan. Some people say the reason Imam al-Hassan appointed his cousin as the head of this legion was to show that no one is immune from the dunya. No one is immune from selling their soul to the devil, including this man. He's the last person you'd expect to do this, and yet he stabbed Imam al-Hassan in the back. And Imam al-Hassan ended up losing the office of Khilafah within about 6 months. 6 months from the holy month of Ramadan, when Amir al-Mu'mineen was assassinated on the eve of the 19th of the month. Imam Al-Hassan was crowned as the Imam on the 21st. And it was Jamadi al-Ula, if I'm not mistaken, that Imam Al-Hassan left everything and departed Kufa for Medina. And he spent the last few years of his life in Medina basically throwing banquets to the poor. This is Imam Al-Hassan's job. A man like Imam Al-Hassan who can lead the universe is reduced to someone who's basically giving money to the poor, giving charity. He became a charity worker. Not that that's not admirable, not that that's not valuable, but what I'm saying is that Imam Al-Hassan was removed from the most important office of being God's representative on earth within 6 or 7 months. The question is, why? And I want to talk a little bit about this. I'll mention 3 quick points. I do apologize, I don't want to go over my time, and if I do, please give me a signal. But I want to mention 3 points as to why people did that to Imam Al-Hassan, and why we need to keep an eye out for these 3 points, so that when the time comes, when our Savior returns, we don't fall into the same trap. And the work has to begin now. We really need to refine our personalities so that we don't fall into the same trap as every previous Imam and his community fell into. Number 1, the first reason was ignorance. It was lack of knowledge. People didn't recognize Imam Al-Hassan as God's vicegerent. They didn't recognize him as a divinely appointed Imam. They saw him as someone who's good, nice, generous, unequaled, and perfect in every way, but not someone endowed with divine authority. That's problematic. That's why traditions tell us. Imam Al-Hassan Al-Askari alayhi salam, for instance, says in one hadith, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The Imam says that there's going to be such confusion that people will abandon belief in the 12th Imam in droves. They will leave him to the point where only a handful of people will remain as believers. Most of those who believe in him, not the disbelievers, not the non-Muslims, not the non-Shia. The Imam says those who already believe in him will abandon him. Then the Imam says, if you want to survive that purge, then you must do 2 things. Number 1, listen carefully. He says, مَنْ وَفَّقَهُمُ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى إِلَى الْقَوْلِ بِإِمَامَتِهِ. Those that Allah has blessed to firmly believe in his imamah, in his leadership. In other words, your understanding of the 12th Imam can't just be his first name, his father's name, his mother's name. No. It has to be grounded in facts. You have to have proof for everything that you believe in. If I asked you, any of the young brothers and sisters, why do you believe in the 12th Imam? What are you going to say? Seriously. Most of us don't have a clue. Oh, it's because I read it in a book. It's because my parents told me. I learned about it in madrasa. But what's your proof? Because the enemy is going to target your beliefs, and if you lack proof, you're going to fall into the camp of those who abandon him. إِلَّا مَنْ وَفَّقَهُ اللَّهُ. Allah has to give you divine backing to believe in the Imam. Believe, not just know about him. Number 1. Number 2, وَإِلَى الدُّعَاءِ بِتَعْجِيلِ فَرَجِهِ. And those who constantly pray for his return. This also complements our ability to attach ourselves in an unshakable way with the 12th Imam. So, number 1 problem was ignorance. People didn't recognize who Imam Al-Hassan truly was. I'll give you a quick example. Someone from Kufa went to Sham. Kufa was where Amir al-Mu'mineen was in power. That was his capital city. Sham was where Muawiyah was. This man went from Kufa. He was a merchant. He was a trader. He went to Sham with his camel. While he was in Sham, somebody came to him He said to him, this she camel is mine. You stole it from me last time I was in Kufa. He said, bro, this is my camel. What are you talking about? He said, no, it's mine. I can tell. He said, what are you on about? I've never met you. I've never seen you. I've never stolen a camel. This is my camel. So the Shami, he went and he came back with 50 people, each of them saying, I am a witness that this is this person's she camel. A witness meaning I've seen the she camel, I can recognize it, I see its features, and this belongs to this man, to this Shami. 50 witnesses. So then there was an uproar. So suddenly Muawiyah sent someone and said, look, come to me, let's have a conversation, let's see what's going on. So this Kufi, the Kufan man, he went to Muawiyah. One Egyptian author, by the way, says that Muawiyah was the one who orchestrated this entire thing. Any two random people getting into a fight over who owns the she camel doesn't have their case elevated all the way to Muawiyah. So Muawiyah must have orchestrated this. When this Kufan went to Muawiyah, Muawiyah said to him, what's going on? He said, dude, this isn't even a she camel. This is a male camel. And this guy has 50 witnesses saying that it's a she camel and it belongs to this. These people can't tell the difference between a male camel and a female camel. Muawiyah said to him, how much is your camel worth? He said, I don't know, 100 dirhams. He said, here's 500 dirhams. This is yours to keep because they took his camel. Then he said to him, I want you to go back and send a message to Ali ibn Abi Talib. He said, go to Ali and tell him that I have 100,000 goddamn idiots just like this guy who can't tell the difference between a she camel and a male camel, and every last single one of them is stupid enough to do whatever I ask them to. If I tell them that Ali ibn Abi Talib, na'udhu billah, hasha, salamullahi alayh, was a fasiq, was a kafir, is a person who doesn't pray, they will take my word as the gospel truth and do exactly as I ask them. Go tell him that my troops are a hell of a lot more stupid than his. It was sheer stupidity. It was ignorance, which is why, brothers and sisters, as I said earlier, we need to increase our knowledge. Let me say this very clear and be blunt about it, my dear brothers and my sisters. The level of knowledge that most of us have is grossly inadequate. The level of evidence that we have for our faith is incredibly deficient. It's nowhere near enough, given all the misconceptions, all the doubts, all the imposters, all the charlatans that are out there. It's not enough, which means that you cannot be content with mediocrity. You can't just be happy that I attended Saturday school for like 4 years. You can't be happy that you attended a series of lectures this past month of Ramadan or Muharram. You can't be content with saying that I read a couple of books. That's simply not enough. What we need is tafaqquh. And tafaqquh means having a deep knowledge of faith. That's what a faqih has, which is why the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt, how merciful were they? How kind were they? You know all the stories. And yet Imam al-Sadiq says, لَيْتَ السِّيَاطِ عَلَى رُؤُوسِ أَصْحَابِي حَتَّى يَتَفَقَّهُوا فِي الدِّينِ. I wish there were people whipping my followers, especially the youth, until they became knowledgeable in faith. They had fiqh of religion. In other words, the Imam is saying, this is important, this is crucial. Don't be content with a mediocre, superficial understanding of your religion, lest we fall into the trap that people in the time of Imam Al-Hassan fell into. Number two, and I'll have to move down the list very quickly, is the love of dunya. The love of dunya. You know when you have some stomach pain, you feel it. If there's pain in your arm, your legs, your head, you feel it. If there's a wound and there's blood coming out of it, you see it. But when you have a spiritual affliction called hubbud dunya, attachments to the material world, most people don't even know that they suffer from this. It's like those who have a mental illness as opposed to those who have a physical illness. One of the biggest problems, ask any psychiatrist, one of the biggest challenges in treating people with mental health issues is that the patient doesn't recognize that they're patients. And if you tell them that you need to take, for example, this medication or you need this kind of treatment, they'll say, why, what's wrong with me? You're the ones who are sick. I'm perfectly fine. That's one of the examples of this is attachment to the dunya. On the day of Ashura, Imam Al-Hassan used to tell the opposing camp, he would say, Ama tafhamuna qawli, don't you understand what I'm telling you? And they would say, Ya Aba Abdullah, nafham. We do understand you, but we're afraid they're going to cut off our monthly stipend. In other words, they used to give them a monthly amount of money, sometimes very meager, very small amount, but they're used to that. They're used to this money being deposited into their account. And so, Ya Aba Abdullah, we love you. قلوبهم معك وسيوفهم عليك. At-Tarimmah told Imam Al-Hussein. The Imam said to him, how did you leave the people of Kufa? What were they like? What was the vibe? And he said to him, Ya Aba Abdullah, they actually love you. They don't have a problem. It's not personal. But their swords are unsheathed in your face. They will kill you at the drop of a hat because their interests are at stake. Which is why having any kind of attachment to any material thing is a recipe for disaster. If you feel too attached to your watch, be careful. That's a warning siren. If you feel too attached to your phone, that's a warning siren. If you feel too attached to your car, that's a problem. If you feel too attached to your house, your job, your passport, whatever, that's a problem. These attachments can come and they can bite you and they can take away your faith at your moment of weakness. Weaken the attachments. Have whatever you need to have, but don't be attached to them. If you lose them, you lose them. I've seen this in the lives of so many scholars and ulama and even regular individuals who are faithful. They lose something really valuable and you don't see them banging their head against the wall. You don't see them running around in despair because that attachment is not strong. Finally, the reason people abandoned Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam was that they lacked the spirit of submission. I'll read you two ahadith, one by Amir al-Mu'mineen. The Imam says, فَيَا عَجَبًا. Listen to this. فَيَا عَجَبًا وَمَا لِي لَا أَعْجَبُ مِنْ خَطَئِ هَذِهِ الْفِرْقَةِ. I'm amazed. And how could I not be amazed at the affair, the mistake of this group of people? على اختلاف حججها في دينها. How they make up stories to justify their beliefs. They make up excuses in order to explain why they believe in what they believe. How? The Imam says, لا يقتدون أثر نبي ولا يقتدون بعمل وصي. When it comes to their beliefs, their values, their things that they believe in, they cannot present any example from the life of a prophet or an imam. They believe it because they believe it. These are their values. They pick them up from society, from school, from TV, from social media. Then the Imam says, يَعْمَلُونَ فِي الشُّبُهَاتِ. Even though they know there's something wrong with this act, they'll do it anyway. They feel there's something dodgy about it, but they'll do it anyway. يَعْمَلُونَ بِالشُّبُهَاتِ وَيَسِيرُونَ فِي الشَّهَوَاتِ. And they're always trying to satisfy their desires. الْمَعْرُوفُ فِيهِمْ مَا عَرَفُوا. You ask them, why do you think this is good? They'll say, well, because I do it. Because this is what I know. وَالْمُنْكَرُ عِنْدَهُمْ مَا أَنْكَرُوا. In other words, the Imam is saying they see themselves as the barometer of truth and falsehood. Whatever I do is right, whatever I choose not to do is wrong. It's me and no one else. مَفْزَعُهُمْ فِي الْمُعْضِلَاتِ إِلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وتعويلهم في المبهمات على آرائهم كأن كل امرئ منهم إمام نفسه. As if each one is an imam. I think that I am the one who tells what religion is, what value is, what virtue is, what faith is. I decide, and no one else. كأن كل امرئ منهم إمام نفسه قد أخذ منها فيما يرى. This is one of the sicknesses of our day and age, isn't it? Imam, listen to this. Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam says to someone who came and objected to him. He said, why would you sign the ceasefire treaty with Muawiyah? The Imam said to him, Ya Aba Sa'id, إذا كنت إماما من قبل الله, if you recognize me as an imam from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لم يجب نعم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. He says, if you recognize me as an imam, then my opinion لم يجب أن يسفه رأيي فيما أتيته من مهادنة أو محاربة. Then you don't get to say that what I do is right or wrong. It's not up to you. I represent Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you recognize me as infallible, as inerrant, as a representative of God, can you object to God? And so you cannot object to the Prophet of God. Listen to this. Then the Imam said to him, ألا ترى الخضر لما خرق السفينة وقتل الغلام وأقام الجدار سخط موسى فعله لاشتباه وجه الحكمة عليه. He said, do you not remember how when Khidr killed the young boy, then he sabotaged the ship, the boat, then he renovated and rebuilt the wall, the incident between Khidr and Musa alayhi salam. He said Musa didn't understand why Khidr was doing the things that he did, and so Musa objected to him. Khidr kept telling Musa what? He said, wait, don't ask me about this. If I tell you the reason, then we will have to part ways. In other words, I want your submission, I want your loyalty. You have been sent to me by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to teach you a lesson. So you have to follow the lesson. You don't ask questions. The Imam said to him, when Khidr did all of this, Musa didn't recognize the purpose, the wisdom. He didn't understand it. Eventually, the Imam said, هَكَذَا أَنَا سَخِطْتُمْ عَلَيَّ بِجَهْلِكُمْ بِوَجْهِ الْحِكْمَةِ فِيهِ. He said, you're angry, you're frustrated, and you object to my actions because you do not understand why I did the things that I did. A classic example, by the way, is we have a lot of discussion about why the Imam is in occultation. I'm sure you've heard that. Why doesn't Imam al-Zaman reappear? With all the carnage, the bloodshed, the oppression, the injustice that we see around us, why doesn't Imam al-Zaman return? And we have a hadith from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam who points to exactly the same story of Khidr and Musa and says that only when the Imam returns will he explain to you why he did what he did, why Allah chose for him to remain in occultation. A lot of people will come up with different justifications. This is why the Imam's in occultation, that's why the Imam says nobody knows, not until he comes back. Incidentally, we have a hadith that says that the incident of Khidr repairing the wall and renovating it and rebuilding it, in the Quran it says that when Musa in the end said, I've had enough, I need to know why you did all of this. These people didn't receive us, they weren't hospitable towards us, and yet you did this for them. In the end, Khidr told him, look, the reason I did this was because there's a treasure underneath this wall, and that this treasure is being kept for two orphans. You've heard this portion of the story. These two orphans, they have a treasure left to them by their father, and their father wants the treasure to be kept intact so that when these children grow older, they find the treasure, that it doesn't get lost, it doesn't get exposed, and people don't steal it. You've all heard this. The hadith says that that treasure was not gold, it wasn't silver, it wasn't money. What it was a single word of wisdom. One quote. And Allah sent 2 of His prophets to safeguard this word of wisdom. The hadith doesn't say what it was, but because of this, I want to read to you very quickly 3 short maxims and ahadith by Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam, because these are precious words of wisdom. In fact, they are priceless words of wisdom. Very quickly, I want you to ponder over these 3 ahadith. The first one, Imam Al-Hassan says, نِعْمَ الْعَوْنُ الصَّمْتِ فِي مَوَاطِنَ كَثِيرَةٍ وَإِن كُنْتَ فَصِيحًا. This applies to our gathering a little bit as well, but the Imam basically says that one of the greatest means of support is being quiet. Even if you're eloquent, the Imam says, even if you think you know the best retort, the best response, someone hurts you, someone insults you, someone says something that you feel like you have the best comeback, Imam Al-Hassan says, you want support, you want backing, the best thing to do is to be quiet. And subhanallah, how many relationships fall apart because either one or both parties couldn't hold back. How many marriages are thrown in the ditch because the wife or the husband is too quick to respond and can't hold themselves back. نعم العون الصمت في مواطن كثيرة. That's number 1. Number 2, Imam Al-Hassan says, one day he met Abdullah ibn Ja'far. Who was Abdullah ibn Ja'far? His brother-in-law. He was married to Lady Zainab alayhi salam. So he met Abdullah ibn Ja'far on the way, and he said to him, Ya Abdullah, كيف يكون المؤمن مؤمنا وهو يسخط قسمه? How could you call yourself a believer when you hate what you are in, what you have, who you are? How many people hate who they are? They hate their life, they hate their job, they hate their husband, they hate their wife, they hate their family, they hate their parents, they hate their income. The Imam says to Abdullah ibn Ja'far, he says, how could you call yourself a believer when you hate what you are in and what you have? وَيُحَقِّرُ مَنْزِلَتَهُ, and sees themselves as being too menial, too worthless. He says, وَالْحَاكِمُ عَلَيْهِ اللَّهُ, when Allah is your guardian, Allah is the one who controls your life, and then you hate your life? How could you call yourself a believer? Then he says, listen carefully, وَأَنَا الضَّامِنُ لِمَنْ لَمْ يُهْجِسْ فِي قَلْبِهِ إِلَّا الرِّضَى أَنْ يَدْعُ اللَّهِ فَيُسْتَجَابُ لَهُ. The Imam says, I guarantee this. You want the key to have your prayers answered? Listen to this. He says, I guarantee for anyone who keeps in his or her heart nothing but being pleased with what Allah wants. If you get to that stage where it's whatever you want, MashaAllah. We have a hadith that says that if you want your prayer to be answered, say 100 times, MashaAllah, MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Why? Because basically you're saying, oh Allah, whatever you want, I'm happy with it. But I would like to have A, B, and C. But if you choose to give it to me, I'll be happy. If you choose not to give it to me, I'll also be happy. That's basically what you're saying. The Imam says, I guarantee your prayers will be answered. If you can reach that level of being pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and whatever He wishes for you. We ask Allah to illuminate our hearts with the love of Imam Al-Hassan Al-Mujtaba alayhi salam. We ask the all-merciful creator of Imam Al-Hassan to grant us the intercession of Imam Al-Hassan on the Day of Judgment. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the name of Fatima wa abiha wa ba'liha wa baniha that we may be raised with them on the Day of Judgment in paradise. We ask Allah to grant us the privilege of visiting the lonely, dark burial site of Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam, with the despots and the tyrants being removed from their positions sooner rather than later. أقول قولي هذا والحمد لله رب العالمين وصل اللهم على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل.
You're all going to need to sit down. We're going to almost jump into the Mawlid. We just have a short talk, not talk, but even less than that, from the president of the Al-Kawthar Islamic Association. Abu Sadiq, the crowd wants it to be short and sweet. So he's going to keep it short and sweet, inshallah, because the kids are being very patient. Please help me in welcoming Ja'far Abu Sadiq with Allah salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
إن شاء الله بس دقيقتين، إذا ما تعبتوا صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. وإذا تعبتوا صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. يعني تعبانين، يبين عليكم تعبانين. يلا إن شاء الله دقيقتين تعبتهم سيدنا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، الحمد لله رب العالمين. دقيقتين بس، دقيقتين وعد، بس دقيقتين. إذا ما تسكتون راح أظل أحكي وأحكي وأحكي للصبح، أنتوا تعبون. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. خلصت مبين تعبانين، ما راح يسكتون للصبح. على حب الإمام الحسن صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. محمد وآل محمد. أعرف الشباب والبنات والأولاد يبي يحتفلون إن شاء الله. باسم جمعية الكوثر الإسلامية نتقدم بأجمل التهاني والتبريكات إلى صاحب الزمان عجل الله فرجه، وإلى الأخوة والأخوات بمناسبة ولادة الحسن المجتبى عليه السلام. Sisters, brothers, السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. ما راح نخلص اليوم، ما راح نخلص. إذا ما تسكتون ما راح نخلص، راح أظل هنا ساعة. بس إذا ساكتين دقيقتين وننزل حتى نكمل الحلويات والشغلات دقيقتين بس، دقيقتين. إذا ما يسكتون ما تعبوا مبين تعبوا. على العموم إن شاء الله ما راح أطول. ولد النبي صلى الله عليه ولد الإمام الحسن في مثل هذه الليلة. المفروض احنا نفرح ونسمع. يلا على العموم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
Brothers and sisters, there's way too much noise. If you would like to jump into the Mawlid of Imam Al-Hassan, we need everyone to be here and attentive. Sisters, too much standing up. I need everyone to sit down. Brothers, I need you all to sit down, please. I see the kids are all sitting now. They're all ready for the Mawlid. Inshallah, we're going to have the festivities of the Mawlid, inshallah. And then after that, the candy. So you have to earn it. You guys aren't listening, huh? If you want the candy tonight, you have to clap. And you have to help. Inshallah, when the mullah comes, he's going to recite some beautiful nasheedas for us. Is he here? Mullah Mustafa? He is here. So everyone together, let's welcome him and tell him how excited we are for the majina and for the candy. If you are excited for the nasheed, inshallah, the Mawlid Imam Al-Hassan, I want a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now clap for Mullah Mustafa Jum'ah.
أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. على محبة أمير المؤمنين وفاطمة الزهراء والحسن والحسين ارفعوا أصواتكم بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. لتعجيل فرج المولى صاحب العصر والزمان الثالثة. بلغ العلا بكماله بلغ العلا بكماله كشف الدجى بجماله كشف الدجى بجماله حسنت جميع خصاله صلوا عليه وآله. يا طالبين من الإله حوائجا تقضى بشرط واحد حاجاتكم والشرط في ذكر النبي وآله صلوا ثلاثا وارفعوا أصواتكم صلوات Al-Hassan, we celebrate on this day he was born. Al-Hassan, we celebrate on this day he was Shabab. Al-Hassan, we celebrate on this day he was born. Al-Hassan, we celebrate on this day he was born. Al-Hassan, we celebrate on this day he was born. Al-Hassan, we celebrate on this born. Al-Hassan, we celebrate on this day he was born. Al-Hassan, we celebrate on this day he was born. Al-Hassan, we celebrate. Born Al-Hassan, we celebrate. Ramadan the 15th On this night Jibreel speaks, the Prophet's face is bright with Hassan's holy light, with Hassan's holy light. Who is this young newborn directly from God's throne, bringing joy to Zahra? This is Al-Mujtaba, this is Al-Mujtaba. On this night Medina shines the shining of the full moon. Al-Hassan has graced the earth and blessings will follow soon. Brother of Al-Hussein is support through and through. That's why today we celebrate, clap and call his name too. Al-Hassan we celebrate, on this day he was born. Al-Hassan we celebrate, on this day he was born. Al-Hassan we celebrate. Al-Hassan we celebrate, on this day he was born. Al-Hassan we celebrate. Al-Hassan we celebrate, on this day he was born. Al-Hassan we celebrate. Al-Hassan we celebrate, on this day he was born. Al-Hassan we was born. Al-Hassan we celebrate, on this day he... I can't hear you guys, Shabab. Zayn. Al-Hassan we celebrate, on this day he was born. Al-Hassan we celebrate. Born. Al-Hassan we celebrate. The louder you are, the more candy you get. On this day he was born. Al-Hassan we celebrate. Ramadan the 15th, on this night Jibreel speaks, the Prophet's face is bright with Hassan's holy light, with Hassan's holy light. Who is this young newborn directly from God's throne, bringing joy to Zahra? This is Al-Mujtaba, this is Al-Mujtaba. On this night Medina shines the shining of the full moon. Al-Hassan has graced the earth and blessings will follow soon. Brother of Al-Hussein is support through and through. That's why today we celebrate, clap and call his name too. Al-Hassan we celebrate, on this day he was born. Al-Hassan, on this day he was born. Al-Hassan we celebrate. Al-Hassan we celebrate. Al-Hassan! Al-Hassan we celebrate, on this day he was born. Al-Hassan, on this day he was born. Al-Hassan we celebrate. 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 Ya marhaba, ya marhaba, مولد إمام المجتبى. يا مرحبا يا مرحبا مولد إمام المجتبى. يا مرحبا يا مرحبا. 100 هلا بمولده، ثاني شموس أهل الهدى، ثاني شموس أهل الهدى. حيدر علينا والده، حيدر علينا والده، حيدر علي زهر البتول المنجبة، زهر البتول المنجبة. مولد إمام المجتبى، مولد. يا مرحبا يا مرحبا مولد إمام المجتبى. يا مرحبا مولد إمام المجتبى. يا مرحبا يا مرحبا. The ones in the back, please help me. يا مرحبا يا مرحبا مولد مجتبى. يا مرحبا يا مرحبا. كل الوجوه الحاضرة، كل الوجوه الحاضرة، سجل اسمها بدفتره، سجل اسمها بدفتره، وارث مكارم حيدره، وارث مكارم حيدره، وارث مكارم حيدره. يا مرحبا يا مرحبا مولد إمام المجتبى، يا مرحبا مولد إمام المجتبى، يا مرحبا مولد إمام المجتبى، يا مرحبا يا مرحبا مولد إمام، يا مرحبا يا مرحبا مولد، يا مرحبا يا مرحبا مولد إمام المجتبى، يا مرحبا يا مولد إمام المجتبى، يا مرحبا. Sit down, sit down, sit down, حبيبي, sit down. Guys, if you want candy, you're gonna have to help me out. They're gonna pay, Sayyid Mahdi's gonna pay attention. The loudest one here is gonna get the most candy. The louder you are, the more you clap, the more candy you're gonna get. Okay? يا مرحبا يا مرحبا مولد إمام المجتبى، مولد إمام المجتبى، هلا يا مرحبا يا كل الوجوه الحاضرة، كل الوجوه الحاضرة، سجل اسمها بدفتره، وارث مكارم حيدره، وارث مكارم حيدره. يا مرحبا يا مولد إمام، هلا يا مرحبا يا مرحبا يا مرحبا يا مرحبا، يا مرحبا يا مرحبا. بيدي وردة قاصدها المسية، دار الله ونبيه ويلهج كل شبيه. بيدي وردة قاصدها المسية، دار الله ونبيه ويلهج كل شبيه. سلم حسنهم يا الله، خلى الأمة يا الله حسن، يا الله خلى الأمة يا الله. سلم حسنهم يا الله، خلى الأمة يا الله. سلم حسنهم يا الله، سلم حسنهم يا الله، خلى الأمة يا الله. سلم حسنهم يا الله، سلم حسنهم يا الله. نويت الليلة أمشي خطوة خطوة، نويت الليلة أمشي خطوة خطوة، البلاد الطاهرة ودار النبوة، استدليت بطريق بنور ضوة. أكيد المجتبى من ولد توه، أكيد المجتبى من ولد، وأكيد المجتبى من ولد توه، أكيد المجتبى من ولد توه، أكيد المجتبى من ولد. بالمدينة الليلة قمرة ضوت بضيها الزمن، والقمر نزل أشوفه يصيح أهلا بالحسن، والقمر نازل أشوفه يصيح أهلا بالحسن، والقمر نازل أشوفه يصيح أهلا بالحسن. شاع جماله والقمر أشوفه، عد مهدي يطوفه رتل وبحروفه. سلم حسنهم يا الله، خلى الأمة يا الله. سلم حسنهم يا الله، سلم حسنهم يا الله، خلى الأمة يا الله. سلم حسنهم يا الله، سلم حسنهم يا الله، سلم حسنهم يا الله. سلم حسنهم يا الله يا الله. سلم حسنهم يا الله، خلى الأمة يا الله. سلم حسنهم يا الله، سلم حسنهم يا الله، خلى الأمة يا الله. سلم حسنهم يا الله. وقفت بباب معروف ببهائه، ردت أنهى العطية من عطائه، شفت يمي عطارد مد ردائه، شفت يمي عطارد مدري داءه، اجت دار الحسن تارك سماءه، اجت دار الحسن تارك سماءه، اجت دار الحسن تارك سماءه، اجت دار الحسن سماء. رافع عيوني وشاهد بالسماء نور حلك، صارت الدور الكواكب بالحسن قطب الفلك، صارت الدور الكواكب بالحسن قطب الفلك، وانا انظر كل من اعتناله مدهوش بجماله، عد مهد قراله. سلم حسنهم يا الله، خلل امه يا الله، خلل امه يا الله. سلم حسنهم يا الله، سلم حسنهم يا الله، سلم حسنهم يا الله، خلل امه يا الله. سلم حسنهم يا الله، سلم حسنهم يا الله، سلم حسنهم يا الله، خلل امه يا الله. سلم حسنهم يا الله، سلم حسنهم يا الله، خلل امه يا الله. سلم حسنهم يا الله، سلم حسنهم يا الله. وقفت بباب معروف ببهائه، ردت انهى العطيه من عطائه، شفت يمي عطارد مدري داءه، اجت دار الحسن تارك سماءه، اجت دار الحسن تارك، اجت دار الحسن تارك، اجت دار الحسن تارك سماءه، اجت الحسن سماء، اجت دار الحسن تارك سماء. رافع عيوني وشاهد بالسماء نور حلك، صارت الدور الكواكب بالحسن قطب الفلك، صارت الدور الكواكب بالحسن قطب الفلك، وانا انظر كل من اعتناله مدهوش بجماله، عد مهد قراله. سلم حسنهم يا الله، خلل امه. سلم حسنهم يا الله، خلل امه يا الله. سلم حسنهم يا الله، سلم حسنهم يا الله، خلل امه يا الله. سلم حسنهم يا الله، سلم حسنهم يا الله، خلل امه يا الله. سلم حسنهم يا الله، سلم حسنهم يا الله، خلل امه يا الله. سلم حسنهم يا الله، سلم حسنهم يا الله، خلل امه يا الله. سلم حسنهم يا الله. ما جينا ما جينا لولا الحسن، ما جينا ما جينا ما جينا لولا الحسن، ما جينا ما جينا ما جينا لولا الحسن، ما جينا ما جينا لولا الحسن، ما جينا ما جينا ما جينا لولا الحسن، ما جينا. يا رب ندعو كلنا نقول آمين، يا رب ندعو كلنا نقول بجاه المبعوث المرسول آمين. ريت الفرحة علينا الطول آمين، ريت الفرحة علينا الطول آمين، وتحفظها النعمة وما تزول آمين، مين وتحفظها النعمة وما تزول آمين. مين بارينا بارينا رب العرش بارينا، ما جينا ما جينا لولا الحسن، ما جينا ما جينا ما جينا لولا الحسن، ما جينا ما جينا. قول ما جينا ما جينا لولا الحسن، ما جينا ما جينا لولا الحسن، ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا لولا الحسن، ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا. يا رب بجاه الكرار آمين، يا رب بجاه الكرار آمين، نور من عدنا الأبصار آمين. يا رب واحفظ هاي الدار ولا تخمد منها الأنوار آمين، ولا تخمد منها الأنوار. تدرينا تدرينا شيعة علي تدرينا ما جينا ما جينا لولا الحسن ما جينا يا ما جينا لولا الحسن ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا لولا الحسن ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا انت الخالق والوهاب آمين بجاهم العترة الأطياب آمين يا الفاتح من لطفك باب آمين يا ترزقنا بغير حساب آمين يا ترزقنا بغير حساب آمين آمين يا ترزقنا بغير حساب نجينا نجينا من كل خطر نجينا ما جينا ما جينا لولا الحسن ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا لولا الحسن ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا يا ما جينا لولا الحسن ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا باسمك ندعي يا رحمن آمين باسمك ندعي يا رحمن آمين بجاه المولود برمضان يمشينا بدرب الإيمان آمين آمين مشينا بدرب الإيمان يهدينا يهدينا نور الحسن يهدينا ما جينا ما جينا لولا الحسن ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا لولا الحسن ما جينا يا ما جينا لولا الحسن ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا لولا الحسن ما جينا يا رب ندعي وكلنا نقول يا رب ندعي وكلنا نقول آمين آمين جاه المبعوث المرسول آمين ريت الفرحة علينا الطول آمين آمين ريت الفرحة علينا الطول آمين ريت الفرحة علينا الطول آمين آمين ريت الفرحة علينا الطول وتحفظها النعمة ومجزول آمين آمين بارينا بارينا رب العرش بارينا ما جينا ما جينا لولا الحسن ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا لولا الحسن ما جينا ما جينا يلا شباب ما جينا يا ما جينا لولا الحسن ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا لولا الحسن قرقيعان وقرقيعان يلا انطونا قرقيعان قرقيعان وقرقيعان يلا انطونا قرقيعان قرقيعان وقرقيعان يلا انطونا قرقيعان 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 يلا انطونا قرقيعان جيناكم من درب بعيد آمين اخوتنا ومدينا الايد آمين منكم قرقيعان نريد آمين ونقلكم لو صار العيد آمين وياكم نلبس ثوب وياكم نلبس ثوب جديد وياكم نلبس ثوب جديد آمين وحق الجار على الجيران آمين قرقيعان قرقيعان يلا انطونا قرقيعان قرقيعان ما جينا يا ما جينا
دول الحسن ما جينا
ما جينا يا ما جينا لولا الحسن ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا
دول الحسن ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا دول الحسن ما جينا
ما جينا يا ما جينا لولا الحسن ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا انت الخالق والوهاب امين جاهم العترة الاطياب جاهم العترة الاطياب امين امين يا الفاتح من لطفك باب
آمين
يا الفاتح من لطفك باب
آمين آمين
يا الترزقنا بغير حساب
آمين
يا الترزقنا بغير حساب آمين آمين نجينا نجينا من كل خطر نجينا لولا الحسن ما جينا باسمك ندعي يا رحمن
واوي واوي
باسمك ندعي يا رحمن آمين آمين بجاه المولود برمضان
آمين آمين
باسمك ندعي يا رحمن
واوي واوي
باسمك ندعي يا رحمن آمين آمين بجاه المولود برمضان
آمين
مشينا بدرب الإيمان آمين آمين يهدينا يهدينا نور الحسن يهدينا ما جينا ما جينا لولا الحسن ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا لولا الحسن ما جينا ما جينا يا ما جينا قرقيعان وقرقيعان يلا انطونا قرقيعان قرقيعان وقرقيعان جيناكم من درب بعيد آمين آمين اخوتنا ومدينا الايد آمين منكم قرقيعان نريد منكم قرقيعان نريد آمين آمين ونقلكم لو صار العيد آمين ونقلكم لو صار العيد آمين آمين وياكم وياكم نلبس ثوب جديد آمين وحق الجار على الجيران آمين قرقيعان وقرقيعان يلا انطونا قرقيعان قرقيعان وقرقيعان يلا انطونا.
Ahsantum. Thank you so much to all of our dear brothers and sisters. Inshallah, tomorrow night we begin with iftar, with salat of course, and iftar. Inshallah, the Arabic Al-Kawthar Majlis will happen in the masjid, and the English program, the Muslim Youth in Motion program, will happen in the gym. So inshallah, we'll see you tomorrow night at Maghrib time. And inshallah, for the coming 9 nights as well. Thank you all for joining us. And inshallah, we'll see you then. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.